Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum coming to you from KSCO Radio. And I'm really happy to be here today. I look forward to putting forth some of my thoughts, things that have developed over the last week that have helped me realize what I can do to help more people and maybe help them out of their quiet desperation. And part of it is being able to recognize and break through people's social veneer. I don't know if you've noticed how many times when you're in a conversation with somebody or you run into somebody on the street and you go, "Hey, how's it going?" They go, "Hey, it's going great. Good. How are you? Nice to see you." And the next thing we know, these people, we find out that they're really unhappy or their life isn't going very well, or they might have just lost a loved one or a job, or they're not feeling good about their life and the direction of their life. And they don't really know that anybody cares. So, one thing we work on in my office with my staff is really trying to take our attention off ourselves and ask questions of patients to see if there's something that we can do to help them. So a lot of times people like to come into the office and ask, about our personal lives and how we're doing. And it's so easy for us to talk about that, but we're really there for the patient. So think about what a knee-jerk reaction, "How are you doing? Fine, how are you?" is. It's almost like you don't even have to be home to answer that question. So one thing I really love to do when I'm talking to patients about their health and they're in my consultation room and we're trying to figure out whether or not what we do here in my office can help them is I need to ask some deep questions that are going to help me figure out if they're coming in some kind of pain or discomfort. Sure, you could easily mask this with some kind of medication or some kind of drugs or alcohol. You can avoid looking at it. You could try to ignore it. You could lessen the desires in your life based on your physical limitations, whether it's from pain, from structural stuff and nerve interference, or if it has to do with some kind of dis-ease, DIS-EASE, some kind of process going on in your body that's making your body not at ease and making it difficult for you to even get through life. So often people that are in pain, they have one thought, one predominant thought, and that's, how do I get out of pain? When people are doing well, they're going off with 100 or 1,000 different ideas and goals and things that they want to do in their life. And that's where the creative imagination comes in. When you are free to create, there's so much to do. Life is beautiful. I'm going to go down and look at the wildlife bloom or the wildflower bloom this weekend because, after the huge amount of rains we've had, they have a record bloom, a super bloom, they call it, of wildflowers. And to me, going out and seeing nature in its grandeur like that, being able to take the time and go to a place away from my regular living circle where I can actually, by popping out of where I'm at, I can get creative, or I can reset my goals, or I can just relax. But so much of the time we get so stuck in this circle of going around and around and around that it's difficult for us to take ourselves out of that situation. So I'm really happy to be able to talk to that with you all. I had a guy call me off the other day from the radio show. He might be listening today. And he wanted to talk to me about the radio station and about KSCO and the content of KSCO and what his and a bunch of his friends' responses were to some of the content. And, I'm really glad he called, because if one person calls, so many people would like to or thinking about it. And so I was in a situation where I could sit down and listen to him. We talked for 15 minutes maybe. And, the cool part of it is, by listening to his concerns, I was able to understand his point of view and then by the way, I told him, and I said, you're free to come on KSCO and have a show. You talk to Michael Zwirling, MZ at KSCO.com, and, just let them know that you're interested in doing your show. And, there's a fee involved in it. I'm paying to talk to y'all because I want to give back to the community. I've had so many things happen in my life where I was living in quiet desperation, and many people didn't reach out, and a lot of people did reach out. But, and it's sometimes timing is involved. So people might reach out, but you're not ready to receive it. So if you talk to a friend or associate or a family member who is stuck in their own muck, and you ask them, you observe it, you see if you can help them, and they're may not be resilient to that or be able to receive that help right now, don't give up. I've lost family members in my personal family, immediate family, to committing suicide because they didn't get that correct solution or help. They didn't get somebody to help. I was young, it was my older brother, and I'll never forget that I had thought about going to talking to him. I was 9 years old, and I already knew what was going to happen, but I didn't act on my thoughts. And then at that point, it was too late. Now, I don't blame myself today. Actually, never did. I looked at it as with a lot of sadness. I wonder where he'd be today. But that's where this small act of kindness can come in. You never know how far-reaching it can be. So when you're at work, when you're talking to people in your surroundings, you can't do this all the time, but try to pay a little more attention to what's going on in their life. We just had another tragedy at a bank. You all heard about that. Well, who hadn't listened to this guy? I'm not making an excuse for him, but I imagine there were times that he was reaching out to somebody and somebody wasn't paying attention. So that's a tragedy in a whole different realm. And it doesn't even have to go that far. But, how many times have people in his situation, people said, "Hey, how you doing?" And he might have said, "Fine," back, or he said, "Not so good," and nobody paid attention. So you never know how far reaching it could be for the individual, for the people he knows and cares about. It's so important that we actually, especially right now with what's going on in our life, in the world, in politics, in health, and financial issues, inflation, gas prices, all this stuff weighs on us so much. And a lot of people are living on fixed incomes, and the inflation rate is like 8.3% or something like that. You never know. If you're in line and there's somebody in front of you, and they for some reason can't pay their bill, and you got a few extra bucks, throw it their way. It will come back to you. Whatever you put out will come back to you tremendously, and do it only to give, and your life will turn around. It will come back to you somewhere. So I don't mean this talk to be about you and what you're going to get out of it, but what I do want to see happen for me and myself, and every time I'm doing a radio show, I'm talking to me. You guys just happen to be able to hear my internal conversation on, what I think I could do to be a better server, a better person, and by that be happier when I go to bed at night. So trying to go a couple levels deeper. And I'll give an example in my office, because that's something that I see every day. When I talk to somebody about, hey, how's it going? And they might say, gosh, I'm doing so much better. Or I might notice that they're doing better. In fact, we notice this all the time. So oftentimes I'll go, gosh, have you had a chance to even express how much better you're doing with somebody you know? Now, I do this for a few different reasons. Number one, if the people don't get acknowledged, they lose their enthusiasm for life or that area. For instance, if somebody comes in and they go, gosh, I'm doing so much better, Dr. McCollum, and go, oh, great, go lie down in that room. I'll be with you in a minute. What happened to their enthusiasm? It's gone. Now, if they come in and go, I'm doing so much better, I go, wow, really? Tell me about it. That's great. You can walk, you're playing golf now, and your knees don't hurt at the end of the day. Wow, and we did that stem cell, the TRT machine on you, and now we're adjusting you and you're doing so much better. That's so fantastic, man. I'm going to hold on a sec. Do you mind telling my staff this? Because oftentimes my staff, they don't hear this because we're in the rooms treating or taking care of patients. So I'll get all the staff together with the patient's approval, and I'll go up to the front and say, patient, would you mind telling my staff what you just told me? And then you just see the patient feel so great being able to say, I can get out of my chair and walk to the kitchen without limping. And, I was able to get down on the ground and play with my cat. And my staff is so happy for it because all we do is when we're in the office is work to help those people get those goals and those things achieved. So we will then express our happiness and gratitude for the fact that this patient has achieved this thing. It's pretty cool. So by not, and think about a kid, think about a kid that's going, hey, daddy, or mommy, I can read this page off this book. And you go, okay, good, go ahead and read it. You crush their enthusiasm and their certainty. Certainty is so important in life because when you're certain, you have power in your hands that will allow you to achieve greater things. But if you go, come on over here, tell me, read it. Wow, that's so good. You know what? That sounded great. I love it. Can you read some more? And take the time to give them that chance to show off a bit. So right now, so many people are just living in, like I say, quiet desperation, going through life. A lot of people live by themselves. 50% of marriages end in divorce in this country. A lot of people aren't even reaching after the quote lockdown for 3 years. People don't even know how to go out and meet anybody anymore. So much stuff is done online where everybody has their perfect face on and you never see what's behind them. I mean, it's great to see people enjoying themselves and out there selling their personalities and or their ideas. And there's a lot of great stuff on there. But how do you actually personally get to know people again? I was watching the news the other day, and some guy was on there saying that he fell in love with his AI girlfriend, his artificial intelligent girlfriend online. And they started up a conversation. I was talking to somebody else today that says that they have some bot that they communicate on during their lunch break. And this bot will lie to them. It will tell untruths. It will forget things. And, gosh, it's kind of a quote, fun thing to do to be able to interact with these. But what about interacting with people? So, it's come to a point where somebody walks by and or a friend and you go, hey, how's it going, Joe? And you see him in the store. Hey, it's great to see you. Okay, I'm doing fine. See you later. And the next thing you know, that patient or that person they're failing in their life or they're not doing well. So by digging a little deeper and going, Joe, what's going on? How's things going? How's the family? How's work going? And you might find that this person needed a few minutes of somebody who cared enough to dig deep enough in a conversation to go, wow, that's really pretty amazing, man. I'll tell you what, why don't we meet over a cup of coffee? I'd love to discuss this with you. Or have you considered looking in this direction. And don't make the mistake that couples make so often, which is listening and then trying to solve their problem for them. So in other words, sometimes all somebody wants is to be heard, and they don't want you to solve their problems. They just want to have you listen to them. So those are some of the important things when we're talking about breaking through the social veneer that I focus on and think about when I'm out and about. And the small acts of kindness. Again, the guy who called the other day, it was this week, and talked to me about all about KSCO radio and the different formats that were on there and what he liked and didn't like. But he said, "Oh, and I remember you talked about that young lady who ran into your car on your bike, on her bike." And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, and that act of kindness that you did to her and how that turned out, and you guys are friends now." And I go, "Yeah, I could have easily gotten mad, and I was mad for a minute, but then I thought, this is just a car. This person is a student. She doesn't have any money. At least I didn't when I was a student. So I decided to call her and go, look, I can fix this myself. Don't worry about it." And she called up or texted me basically saying, "I'm in tears. You don't realize what's been going on in my life, family matters, issues with illness in her family." And just the fact that I was willing to withdraw myself out of "you hit me, you have to pay for it" thing, and go, "You know what? I've been a student before. I got it covered this time. Just pass it on down the road." It made a huge difference in her life. So I want to recommend that you do a couple things. One is, if you care enough, or I know you care, if you have time, think about a friend of yours that you haven't talked to in a while, or a family member, somebody who maybe, and that doesn't have to be this, but you had an upset in a conversation and you've been kind of having a grudge against them. Call them up, leave a message, text them, write them a letter, and just say, "Hey, Mike or Sally or whoever, I just been thinking about you. I remember that time when blah, 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 something good. I always have kindness when I think of you. I'd love to hear from you. Hope all's well. See you soon." So that little act of kindness might be what that person needs to get by during the day. And not only that, let's say they're already up on the higher end of doing great things in their life, and you do that, it might inspire them to really expand on something that they've been dreaming of doing. And you might give them that little bit of confidence, or that little bit of a push, or that somebody cares enough to make them decide to do something about it. So, confidence in life allows people to achieve great things. Certainty comes from being confident in something. And there's 4 degrees of confidence. And I've talked about these quite a bit. The first competent is unconsciously incompetent. In other words, you don't know what you're doing, and you don't even know you don't know what you're doing. These people go through life causing trouble for other people, not even realizing that they're affecting people's lives and their other people's health and their own life and health. And it's very draining. Right above that is when all of a sudden somebody goes, "You know what? I really probably don't know what I'm doing, and I'm making a mess of it." That's called consciously incompetent. That's when you actually get to a point where you realize you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing, and you realize it. The next step above that is consciously competent. That's where you go, "You know what? I'm going to make an effort to do better at what I'm doing. So I'm going to make an effort to become more confident in my life." And finally, there's the people that are unconsciously competent. They're really good at what they do. They don't have to think about it. They're really good at their job. After adjusting for 35 years, I'm pretty unconsciously competent on how to move and adjust people. So going back to the bottom, unconsciously incompetent would be the people that go through life like a bull in a china shop, not even caring whose toes they're stepping on or whose feelings they're hurting. They just are rolling around and taking no prisoners. So not much I can do for those people, not much anybody can. But one day they might have a loss, and it usually comes from a loss of realization of the health family member, something that they care about, when they realize, I got to change my life. And this is called consciously incompetent. And here they might be realizing they're doing something they shouldn't do, whether it's drugs, alcohol, things, people they're hanging out with, things they're doing at work, and they know they shouldn't be doing it, but they're still doing it, and they can't change yet. These are the people that say things to others that hurt them. And again, you never know how far-reaching a small act of kindness may go. You never know how far-reaching an unsavory comment or no comment or no interest can do. Again, I mentioned earlier the guy in the bank who shot up the bank. What would have happened if somebody would have maybe given him the time of day? Maybe it wouldn't have made a difference. But, I don't want to be the person that didn't give that guy a chance because it affected everybody else. So, and then you're going through life and you go, you know what? I'm really tired of being a screw up. I'd like to be, there's things that I would like to do. I would like to be able to play music, maybe have a profession, maybe get into a relationship with somebody that's meaningful. And then, so then you're consciously competent, which means you're starting to really pay attention to what works and what doesn't work. You're starting to pay attention to what effects you have on people and what effects your actions have on other people. And, it's kind of a good place to be, but in another way, not so good, because you're evaluating yourself. You're not going to be able to be in power or certain because you're still second guessing yourself till you get those habits that you need to get in order to become unconsciously competent, which means you're going through life. Predominantly, the things you do are successful for yourself. You are recognizing needs and wants in other people, things that you can help and things that you can't help. You're not trying to make gold out of lead. You realize where your goals are. And when you're unconsciously competent, you can achieve so many great things in life. You know where your strong points are. And as long as you can set goals and achieve those goals and achieve happiness, and happiness is defined as the ability to overcome not unknowable obstacles towards a known goal. In other words, you set a goal, and every time you run into something and you fail, that creates unhappiness. A lot of times people just quit trying to succeed. They don't know why they're failing. But as soon as you know what those obstacles are, you have the ability to overcome those obstacles. The mind is a perfect thing. Its purpose is to pose and solve problems. So you give it a problem, it will come up with a solution to the problem. Now, whether it's a favorable solution or not is dependent on, what tools you use, how competent you are, and really whether or not you're going to achieve your goal has to do with whether it's a worthy goal for you or not. But when you achieve a goal, you've been able to overcome all the obstacles in the way to get there. But if you don't know what the obstacles are, it's going to be a lot harder to get there. So making sure that you at least know what it is that your goals are. And I look at it this way. There's a story that I've told before about a jar of fleas, and they put a lid on the fleas on the jar, and the fleas kept jumping up and hitting that lid trying to escape. But they knew that if they jumped any higher than attempted to jump any higher than the lid, they'd hit the lid and get knocked back down. So after a period of time, they got conditioned on how high they could jump. So finally, they took the lid off the jar. Well, the fleas would jump, but no farther than the lid. So their avenue was no farther, their vision was no farther than what the barriers that had been put on them. And they were at one point knowable because they knew that they jumped up and they'd hit that thing. But once that was gone, they still couldn't jump any further because of their conditioning. So the good part about Homo sapiens is we have an ability to think and reason, provided that we have the right information and a clear thinking ability, which has to do with the 4 types of competence. Do you know how to evaluate things? Are you competent in looking at data and evaluating whether it's good or bad? So if you're unconsciously incompetent, good luck. You got to come up to realize that you're incompetent in areas of your life so that you know how to start to work on them and be consciously incompetent and work through the steps you need to become consciously competent. And you need help. You know, the wheel's been invented for a long time. There's probably very little out there that people may want to achieve that somebody hasn't already done and worked out all the hard knots out of those wheels so that it rolls smoothly. Doesn't mean you're not going to go through the bumps to get there, but you do have a chance to get there. So what I want to do for a minute, I'm going to take a short break here. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show a video of just because I want to talk about the stem cell machine that I have here. And I want people to understand that we have something available right now that nobody really knows about. And there's only 600 or 700 in the country. When I got mine, there were only 200. And it's a stem cell machine that recruits your own body's stem cells and gets them to the area of injury. And I can show this on my Zoom meeting screen. I can't show it on the Facebook screen, but I'm going to play it so you can hear Karen and her success story from 1 to 2 treatments in our office. So here we go.
You've had a few different surgeries in your back.
Yeah, only 6 or 7, yeah.
Yeah, and you have steel putting the last 3 vertebrae together and steel in your neck.
Yes.
And you were still in pain after that.
Yes.
So they implanted in your spine stimulation.
Spinal cord stimulator, yeah.
Did that help you?
No, it made everything so much worse.
Yeah.
And then they revised that twice and added more paddles and stitched it all in and continued to get worse. All trying to resolve the problem that they caused by putting it in, which was a diaphragm cramp that never went away.
Yeah.
It started the day I woke up from the permanent implant, and it ended last week.
Wow.
You took care of me. Like, was it last week?
It's amazing.
No,
How long was that?
3 years.
3 years.
Almost to the day, yeah. March
Wow.
is when it started.
I remember you walking in. You just were bent over.
Yeah, because I couldn't breathe. Every time I took a breath, it cramped. So I was like this.
Yeah.
And then I'm able to stand and breathe. And
the next week you came in and said, "Wow, my low back is so painful. This is better. Could we do anything for your low back?" So we said, "Well, let's try that." So what happened there?
I just want to back up just a little bit. The spinal cord stimulator was implanted because I was having severe pelvic and sciatic nerve pain on both sides, all the way to my feet.
Wow.
All the time. I couldn't sit more than 10 to 15 minutes. I couldn't sleep more than 20 minutes. So I was willing to do that spinal cord stimulator. So just that's an important piece. But last week, you put the
stim wave.
The stim wave. And the pain stops and it's all but gone. I watched the 49er game for an hour in a row in a chair.
Wow.
I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
And I was able to walk on the beach. It's really changing everything.
Goosebumps.
Yeah, those are God bumps.
Yeah.
And I have them too.
Yeah.
Because I know it's a miracle. I know, and I always knew the problem came from the surgeries because it started when we started surgeries.
Yeah.
I was a severely frequent urinator, like 20 to 30 minutes, just like getting up out of the chair. And it's so much better. It's hours. And I'm urinating 6 as many times.
Wow. And we talked about the nerve that come out of your low back where all that metal is.
And that makes sense.
Goes to the bladder. And those nerves, since we're in here, are the nerves that come out of your low back where your surgeries were, and those nerves go to the bladder. By taking pressure off those nerves, your bladder's working.
I know. It's like, and see, now you could not have done that 2 weeks ago. I would have screamed.
Wow.
Wow, that's such a cool video. Karen was in today, doing amazing. She's on a maintenance program now. If I could show you her x-ray, you would be amazed. And, you know, it's just amazing to me that people can, it's amazing to me what happens when people find out about what we do. So again, there's less than 700 of these machines in the country. And when I first found out about it, I couldn't lift my arm and heard it so many times in life and then adjusting. And it had been a few months and I'd gone to Mexico. I'd had injections in it, PRP, which is platelet-rich plasma. And I luckily had another chiropractor here doing my treating for me. But I was really concerned about, you know, what my future looked like. But I went and got one treatment with that machine. I could raise my arm 40%. The next treatment a week later, 80%. So I went and bought the machine. So, you know, to me, unbelievable. Some person cared enough to say, you should go look at this. And that's a small act of kindness. That's, hey, Duncan or Dr. McCollum, how you doing? I'm going, man, I can't lift my arm up. It's doing terrible. Oh, that's a bummer, man. Try taking some medication. We'll see you later. I got to go. I'm busy. I'm late for work, right? Versus, you know, take time. Why don't you look into this? Perhaps this thing can help you. Now, not just about my office, but how's everything going? That's okay. Okay, great. Usually their first response will be, yeah. So how do you dig layers deep to find out how it's going with somebody? You have to ask questions. And so one of the first things, you know, I'll just give an example when a patient comes into the office, how I dig. Okay, so they come in and I see low back pain. And we have a questionnaire that says, does it affect work, sleep, hobbies, home life, mood, energy levels, things like that. And they circle yes or no on it. And so a lot of times when people, again, I mentioned earlier, when you're in pain, you have one thought predominantly. I'm in pain, like Karen we just saw, get me out of pain. You know, when you're not in pain, you have hundreds of ideas and thoughts going on, creating life for you. So what we want to do is try to, in this particular case in my office, I'm going, so listen, let's say their name is John. John, you have low back pain. Gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. You know, I've had that myself. I really understand it is no fun. So I'm glad you're here and I hope that we can help you. So we're going to dig in and find out whether or not this is something that seems like I can. And, you know, if I don't think I can, I promise you, I'll try to find the right person for you. And so I'll dig in and ask them, well, how long have you had this condition? Was there, and a lot of times they'll say 3 days. I woke up brushing my teeth and I couldn't get up. And to them, they've had that pain for 3 days. But then you dig a little deeper and go, wow, well, is this something that you've had before? Oh yeah. You know, I've had it off and on for years. Minimizing, really? Well, how many times a year do you get it? You know, actually, if we're talking about headaches, this is a crazy one. Let's say it's headaches. They go, well, I get headaches, you know, maybe, well, how often? No, 3 times a week. Really? Okay. And how severe can they be? Oh, they can get to be an 8 sometimes, and I take Advil and then it helps them. Okay, how many years have you had that? 10 years. Wow, so you've had headaches 3 times a week for 10 years. That's 365 times 3. Oh no, 52 weeks times 3. is what, 156 times 10. You've had 1,562 or whatever headaches, 1,562 headaches in the last 10 years. Does that sound normal to you? It may be normal, but it ain't healthy. And you've been taking Advil for those? Do you know what Advil does to your liver and kidneys? #1 cause of failure. So what do you think is going to happen if we don't get this resolved? Do you know that it can upset your stomach? Oh yeah, well, I've had stomach problems. Okay, tell me about that. Well, sometimes I have, blood in my stools or bleeding. I mean, believe it or not, I hear this a lot. And so I go, okay, well, wow, let's find out if we can help you. And so you mentioned hobbies here, but you kind of half circled it. Is this affecting your hobbies? Well, no, not really. I don't play golf anymore. Okay, so it is affecting, I say to myself, it is affecting your hobby. You're not playing golf anymore. Was there anything else that you like to do? Well, I like to garden, but when I bend over, my stomach, I get acid reflux now. So I don't usually get to garden so much. And then it's kind of a bummer for me because I loved planting the flowers for the spring bloom, which I have going on in my yard right now, all my ranunculus and my digitalis or foxgloves are coming up and all the other really pretty McCollum vines and stuff. So I go, wow, well, how does that make you feel that you're not able to do the sports you like, play golf, or, go out and garden? You say you used to like to walk. Well, you're not able to walk. No, that's all right. I just don't walk anymore. And people deaden themselves based on the fact that they've given up on the chance of their life getting better in that way. So that's where caring about somebody enough to get them to make a decision to do something different comes in. So if you don't know what else to do, you're stuck. So many people have tried all kinds of different things for pain. They've tried, first it might be ibuprofen, then it might be, or aspirin, then ibuprofen, then Tylenol, then pretty soon they're taking gabapentin and hydrocodone, and they're addicted to these things, and those cause other problems with the organs like the liver to detoxify it and stuff. And I don't know if you can see this right behind me here, is a frame of a patient of mine who has 10 medications. She made this box for me here, 10 medications. And it says before, while working as a nurse, back braces, wrist braces, ice packs, ibuprofen were part of my daily life. Asthma symptoms had required several trips to ER. She has her inhalers up here, a few different ones of those, 4 or 5 prescription drugs, asthmatizer thing. And then she says, I chose Dr. McCollum and chiropractic care. It became a life-changing event. There's a picture of her here, which you can't see, and one down here says before after. She says, I was on 9 asthma meds, now I take none. This says, with treatment, I lost 30 pounds and dropped 8 dress sizes. Now, she is a nurse who'd never been to a chiropractor, and I met her actually. She was taught at a local high school. She would teach one of those classes for, career education. And since it was a health thing, they asked me to come and talk about chiropractic because students may be interested in that. And the nurse came up to me afterwards and she said, well, you know what, I'm interested in what you're saying. Do you think you can help me? I said, well, I don't know, why don't you come in, let's take a look. We never sit down to talk to anybody about their health problems, and that's one thing I can promise anybody listening. You call up and say, I'd like to have a consultation with Dr. McCollum. The consultations are free. If I think I can help you, I'll let you know, and I'll go, now we need to do the next step, which might be an examination, potentially take some x-rays of the area. We have digital x-rays here, and I've read thousands of x-rays. I realize I'm almost up to 20,000 patients now. Usually take a set of 6 or 7 x-rays of every patient. So that's something like 21,000 x-rays, 210,000 x-rays I've looked at in my career. That's a lot of x-rays. So I have a lot of understanding of what is right and what's wrong. I also do refer them out when need be. And I've found some things that I had to refer out because I suspected what they were and they weren't great. But, you know, being able to feel competent at what I'm doing as a chiropractor or as a healthcare professional comes with, you know, really paying attention to the patient's indicators, having enough experience, being able to know what you know and what you don't know. That's called competence. Being unconsciously competent in what you do understand, and then consciously competent enough to know I need to refer this person out, or we need to get some more information from them. So I'm going to just go on with what this patient said here. She goes, "Thank you, Dr. McCollum. I first visited Dr. McCollum 7 years ago. I had become very frustrated with my health. Ongoing back spasms, chronic asthma symptoms, and increase required hospitalization and ER. I was taking 9 daily meds just to maintain most of them related to asthma or side effects of the meds. It was a struggle to continue working as a nurse. My thyroid daily, my typical daily, I have to get out of the way of the tube that's coming down here. My typical, there it is. My typical daily required 2 wrist braces, back braces, ice packs, and Advil by the end of every shift. I made a conscious choice to do something different, a conscious choice. She realized that doing what she was doing was not going to make a difference. So she paid attention to Einstein that said doing the same thing and expecting a different result, you know, has its drawbacks. And I needed to do something different to get my body healthy and moving again, to get back on track and to the active life that I had been used to. So I chose Dr. McCollum for chiropractic care, and it became a life-changing event for me. I can go on and on and on. I won't right now just because the matter of time, but this is something that anybody has the ability to do, is make a change, make a decision to change. And then you got to find the right path. You know, if it's your health, you know, the United States is rated 47th in the world for health. And I don't know if you know that. There's 46 countries healthier than us. We take more drugs than any country in the world, and we're only 4% of the world population. So when you look at, if you were going to look at an investment, or if you were going to look at buying a new car, you probably would look at the car statistics and go, I'm not going to buy the one that breaks all the time. And I'm not going to buy the one that, you know, has parts that you can't get. I'm going to buy one of the best ones. So when you're looking at healthcare, Western medicine is absolutely the best for emergency medicine. When my appendix ruptured in November of 2021, I was 5 days from death, or probably even less than that, because it was that when you have a ruptured appendix, it will kill you. I'm so glad I had Western medicine for that. The one thing that Western medicine is not so great at is getting your body optimized to be able to let free of the best physician that ever lived, and that's the physician that lives inside of you, which is called your innate intelligence. So, you know, I encourage people, if you know somebody that is living in quiet desperation, if it's health-wise, get them to see a healthcare, I'd say a natural healthcare person first. Hopefully that person is versed enough to know what they can help and not help. And then in my world, there are different types of chiropractors. There are chiropractors that just have you come in when you're in pain, And then there's chiropractors that say, let's get your body optimum functioning and then keep it that way. I prefer that because when I broke my back when I was 12, I had spent many times being carried into a chiropractor. And after I did that enough times at a young age, what the doctor had been telling me is, let's fix it. Let's get it running as good as you can and then keep it that way. I finally listened to him, and that happened. And because of that, I became a chiropractor myself to help as many people as I could achieve optimum health so that I could achieve my goals and pursue my goals. We just had a meeting with one of the doctors in my office today talking about, what his goals were. He ultimately has his own passion to move back to where his family is and work on his building a practice back there. But while he's here, we want him to have get everything he needs to have a successful practice. So that's why I told him, while you're here, sit in. There's nothing I do in my practice am I going to hold back for you, because I know if I help you become successful, you're going to go out and help more people through chiropractic. And I know how great that will be. So when we talk about my original beginning of this is, breaking through people's social veneer to really find out what you can do to help them. Don't be fooled by the how's it going? Great. How are you? Great. And think that they're really doing that way. I would bet that most of them aren't, and they're just saying that because it's the right thing to say. Now, you don't have to go around and try to save the world, but a small act of kindness, a simple comment about, hey, gosh, I love your earrings, or, your hair looks great today, or it's nice to see you smile. You should splurge on it. Try to give in words something that will bring up the person that you're with. Always try to leave that person doing a little better than when you first met them. I think that's something that Charlie Chaplin said, and I'm probably misquoting who said it, but I remember him saying, no matter what, when I meet somebody, I want to leave them feeling a little bit better. And by doing that, if everybody did that, we'd have a much better, happier world to live in. So this is Dr. Duncan McCollum. This is KSCO Radio. I'm here every Saturday from 1 to 2, and then the show repeats Mondays from 2 to 3, 1080 a.m. or ksco.com. You can see all of my shows on Dr. Duncan McCollum YouTube. Please get on there and be a subscriber for me. It would help me out. You can also listen to all of my podcasts at McCollum Wellness Radio. Any place you play podcasts, you can listen to McCollum Wellness Radio, and there's a lot of great information on there. One of the main things that we have going at our office is we have our stem cell machine. It is a sound wave machine, and what it does is it helps your body bring its own stem cells out of the long bone into the area that we treat. It's great at a microscopic level where it will help repair and rejuvenate scar tissue. It will rejuvenate the cartilage on the ends of the joints. Knees, we have incredible results with. Shoulders, low backs, ankles, hips. It's amazing. It's a life-changing thing, and there's only 700 of them in the country. So you're not going to hear about it very much unless you hear about it from us. We've got just a few minutes left. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again and play another commercial from the same gal. And this is another version of Karen, another short success. And you can see that those are her x-rays on the screen now. You can see the bolts in her back. She had surgery where they put those screws in her back. And then she developed a condition called arachnoiditis, where all of the scar tissue around the screws in her back have stopped it from moving and created a tremendous amount of pain. So let's listen to Karen again.
Hi, this is Dr. Duncan McCollum. I'm a chiropractor, and I have a machine called a tissue regenerative therapy machine that actually helps get your own stem cells to an area of old injury. Karen, as you know, has had some surgeries on her back. Here's a picture of what it looks like in here. And she's had some pretty good results with what we've done. So can you just say where we've been and where you are now? After all, these are your peoples.
I just wanted to make this short one for folks like me that have suffered from constant chronic intractable pain from old surgeries or new surgeries. This particular treatment, this stem cell regeneration non-surgical, has changed my life from day one. It's been about 6 weeks now. I didn't want to say anything sooner because I didn't believe it. And it is really incredible. I suggest anyone that needs to or has any desire to feel better, please check with
Dr. Duncan McCollum, 831-459-9990 or McCollumFamilyChiropractic.com. Thank you so much.
If he can't help you, he'll find somebody who can.
That's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there we go. So there's Karen again with her success. And, there are some of these around. There's not many in this whole San Francisco, Santa Cruz Bay Area. We have people coming up from Carmel, from Salinas. I've had people come down from Lake Tahoe to get it. So we'd appreciate you sharing, spreading the word. And again, you never know how far reaching a small act of kindness could be. So go out there and do something, say something to somebody, give them your appreciation. And hopefully together we can change the world. One mind at a time, one being at a time, one little act of kindness at a time. It goes really far. And, I don't know where I'd be if somebody didn't care about me enough to help me when I was so down and out on pain meds. And, I got carried into a chiropractor's office by two people. And I don't even remember their names. It was 50 years ago, almost 48 years ago. And they changed my life. And had that not happened, I probably had surgeries. I'd probably look like Karen's back, if not worse. And at 67 years old, I'd probably not even be walking if I was even still alive. So at any rate, Dr. Duncan McCollum, McCollum Wellness Radio, please tune in Saturdays from 1 to 2 on KSCO.com, 1080 AM. You can find me at Dr. Duncan McCollum YouTube, McCollum Wellness Radio, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.